This meeting
Hello.
is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jen Braun, and I direct the AHA Team Training Program. We're coming at you from a very cold, chilly, wet Chicago day. So we're happy to welcome our Texans here to warm things up a bit. But welcome to this month's webinar on mindful attention training, a tool to develop situational awareness. We have a great team of speakers today, but before I hand things off to them, just a few rules of engagement to cover. Oopsies. So we're pretty familiar with Zoom these days, so just wanted to call out that audio can be accessed in one of two ways. You can either listen through the audio through your computer, so through your Wi-Fi, or you can dial in through your phone. If you want to switch your audio connection, you should be able to do so in the bottom part of your toolbar. Everyone is in a listen-only mode for this webinar. So with that said, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to utilize the chat on the lower toolbar. And you'll note that you can either chat to everyone or you can chat to just hosts and panelists. So please be mindful of that or just keep an eye out there. We encourage you to submit questions throughout the webinar today for our speakers. If you have any technical questions or anything we can answer quickly in the moment, we will certainly do so. But at the end, I will take all of the questions that have been submitted and do a moderated Q&A. Just a few other notes that the session's being recorded. The chat will not be included. So just wanted to call that out. So finally, for me here, if I could get this to advance, oh man. We are happy to offer continuing education credit. So in order to do so, you have to create a Duke OneLink account. This is a one-time only step. So if you've created an account for us in the past, you will not need to do that. Instructions have been sent via email, and I believe Kara, my colleague, will chat them in here again. But if you've created a Duke OneLink account, Duke is our CE provider, and we will provide one contact hour or credit hour for this webinar. And so all you need to do is text SOLPES to the number you see there after the webinar today. We will definitely include this number and this code again throughout the webinar and again at the end. So if you didn't get a chance to write that down, we will share that here once we're finished. So upcoming team training events, we're really looking forward to the first half of next year already. We haven't even closed out this year. We're looking forward to next year. We have a virtual master training course that's kicking off in mid-January. This is an 8-week course. We have a couple of slots left. So if you're interested, hurry up and snag them before they're gone. But really want to emphasize, happy to have in-person back. We'll begin courses the first half of next year, beginning in April through June. We'll definitely be offering more, probably starting again in September, but that's our course lineup there. We have centers across the whole country, including Houston Methodist, which is where some, if not all of our speakers are from here today. So very excited to have them part of our faculty team moving forward. So please note we have team rates for these master training courses. So if you're interested, you can click on the hyperlink there, or Kara will chat that in so you can learn more about that. Finally, in terms of our webinars, we're launching a 3-part webinar series on human-centered design thinking in healthcare starting in January. So attendance for these webinars for all 3 webinars is not required, and you can register for each session individually. So if you don't know much about human-centered design or design thinking, this is really an effective approach to improve the usability or the user experience of a service or a process. And this can be from the lens of a patient, from a family member, and even staff to help improve value. So we're really excited to begin this webinar series, and our speakers will be sharing a lot of case studies and actual tools that you can use, and they'll show you how to use them to help innovate back at your organization. So registration is now open, so you can sign up for those for next year. So with that said, I'm very happy to turn things over to our team of Texans today. Denise, Carol, Joanne, thank you for being here. So I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar, Mindful Attention Training. So the outcome for this presentation is that learners will enhance their knowledge regarding mindful attention as a component of situational awareness with an intent to change practice. Our objectives are to differentiate situational awareness as a component of situation monitoring, explain the benefits of training attention to enhance awareness, and evaluate different mindfulness interventions to integrate into practice and enhance attention. Next slide. All right. So before we get started, I just have a quick polling question. How many of you have attended a Team Steps training course? So if you'll answer this question, yes or no. You've already been to Team Steps training. Okay, so it looks like about half of you have attended Team Steps training. So those that have attended, you may see some similar pictures, but just go along with me. Okay, so to start this presentation, we're going to begin with situational monitoring, which is one of the Team Steps tools in our toolbox. Situation monitoring is a way for team members to be aware of what's going on around them. It promotes the sharing of new information with other team members to develop and maintain a shared mental model. Situation monitoring is an individual skill. Situation awareness is an individual outcome, and the shared mental model is a team outcome. So we'll start first with situation monitoring, the individual skill. Next. So this is an individual skill. It implies that it can be taught, developed, and improved upon. The process of continually scanning the environment and assessing the situation to gain and maintain an understanding of what's going on around them. It also ensures that new or changing information is identified and able to effectively communicate to promote decision-making. It will also lead to effective support of team members and mutual trust. So a simple example of situation monitoring, the individual skill, is when you're walking out to your car. You're scanning the situation, you're scanning the scene, you're looking for anything that's out of the ordinary or anyone out of the ordinary. As you approach your car, you are looking around your car, under your car, sometimes in your car, before you actually get in. That's a simple example of situation monitoring. Next, we'll talk about situation awareness. This is an individual outcome, and it's the state of knowing the condition that affects your work environment, what's going on around you. It helps to provide a detailed picture of the situation. Each situation is different, and situation awareness changes with different circumstances and will influence the nurse's ability to focus their attention on the situation at hand. A loss of situation awareness can lead to ambiguity, confusion, or ineffective communication. So an example of situational awareness is the individual outcome is a nurse in a medication room. So she's in the medication room, she's going to pull her medications. She has either a Vocera or a phone and it's ringing and they want the nurse back in the room. Then someone else walks into the medication room talking about a party that we attended the night before. Hopefully this nurse can identify that her situational awareness has changed. She's been distracted and she needs to pause, regain her situational awareness to ensure that she pulls the right medication for the right patient. Again, situation awareness. Now let's see how you do with situation monitoring. The next slide is a picture. And what I'd like you to do is in the chat, document the first thing that you see when the picture appears. Are you ready? We'll give you a few seconds if you'll just, I see a lot of ducks or a bird. Okay. So as I see in the chat, a majority of you see a duck. However, some of you see a rabbit. So I'm just going to pause for a second for you to look at the picture to see if you can see the rabbit. So I'm just going to point it out. This is the bunny's nose, the bunny's eyes, and the bunny's ears. Why is that? Because we all see and interpret things just a little bit differently. Many times, when there's someone taking a fresh look at a situation, they're able to identify the problem, the bunny rabbit. However, they're intimidated or afraid to speak up to say there's a rabbit in the situation. It is important as healthcare providers, we feel psychologically safe to speak up when we see that rabbit, even though no one else will, because this will help to promote patient safety. All right, we're going to try it again. And we're going to give you another picture to look at. Again, in this chat, if you'll list the first thing that you see. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of girl with a bonnet, similar to our last picture. However, I'm going to tell you the other picture I call a witch. Some of you are calling it a lady. So I'm going to take a minute and point out the witch. So this is her nose, the wart on the end of her nose, her near, her mouth, her chin, and her eye. Are you able to see it now? Yep, some are saying yes, some are still saying no. A lot of times if you look at the picture in a different way, either the right way on the right side or the left side, you'll be able to see the old lady or the witch. I like to call her a witch. So we need to allow time for clarification to help others to see or hear about the changes. Similar in this particular situation, I had to show you what the witch looked like because it wasn't clear to a majority of you. Again, in healthcare, we do not always allow time for clarification. This is so important. And especially during handoff, when staff nurses are getting report and they ask a question and the nurse giving report just is too rushed and doesn't want to give clarification. But if they're not able to clarify, we're going to have an error. All right, so now situation monitoring and awareness leads to a shared mental model, and this is the team outcome. A shared mental model is the result of each team member sharing their situation awareness to ensure the team is on the same page, similar to what we did with the pictures. So an example I like to give for situation monitoring shared mental model is I am an NRP instructor, neonatal resuscitation instructor. We do a lot of simulation with this skill. And in the training, I teach the team that when they walk into the room, you need to call out their name and what role they're going to choose to take over to make sure that every role needed for that code is covered. So for example, if I walk into the NRP situation, I see someone's doing ventilation, I see someone's doing compressions, but no one is doing medication. So I say, I'm Carol, and I'm going to pull medication. The next person in, Denise. I'm Denise, and I'm going to prepare for intubation. Next, Joanne. I'm Joanne, and I'll start documenting. So now we have provided a shared mental model for the team that's in the room doing the code so that they know all the roles are covered. This is very important for team work and to improve mutual support and trust. It also helps to prevent it from being chaotic. So we know that who's doing which role, and we know that they're capable of doing that. So now we're going to have you watch a video to see if you can identify who done it. Hopefully we'll be able to show the video. Some of you have seen it. I have another one. It's called a double Dutch, but it was a little longer of a video.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
But how did you know?
Madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
Sorry, madam.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
So how many of you saw all 21 changes that occurred? So my guess is no one. However, if you can put in the chat how many changes you saw, 1 or 2, and follow along with the
Clearly,
video.
somebody...
2, I see 2, 4, 2, none. 3. Typically it's 2, 1 or 2. So the 4, y'all are, oh my gosh, I saw a 6. Okay, so now I want you to focus and pay attention. They're going to show you where all the changes occurred.
Somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
So this video helps to demonstrate how we all see different cues in any given situation, and the importance of speaking up if you see something different to help create a shared mental model. You know, the first video, you didn't know what you were looking for, but you were looking for who done it, who killed the individual. But you weren't looking for any changes in the scenery because nobody told you that. Sometimes it's the same in healthcare when we have a bias with a certain diagnosis. We go in and say, okay, it's this or that, but maybe someone else sees something different. And again, they have to feel safe to speak up, to say, I understand that you are seeing this, but what if I found this in the situation? Will that make a difference? So just being aware of those changes. Sharing information with coworkers is important to healthcare to ensure that we have a shared mental model for all situations and hopefully prevent errors. In addition, this type of communication will build mutual support and trust in the clinical team. And now I'm going to hand it over to Denise.
Thank you, Carol. Hi, I'm Denise McNulty. Thank you all for participating in this webinar. Just a little bit about me. I am a professional development specialist at Houston Methodist Willowbrook Hospital and a clinical professor at Texas Lutheran University, Houston campus. And I'm passionate about protecting the behavioral and mental health of clinicians as a mindfulness coach. So as Carol indicated, situational monitoring and awareness skills don't just happen. They take intentional practice. If teams are to become more conscious of the environment and to predict potential outcomes, they must become more open, aware, and attentive. Attention and awareness are powerful, but vulnerable. You can't just decide to pay more attention. The brain doesn't work that way. In fact, it's been estimated that the mind will wander 47% of the time, meaning we don't attend to almost half of our daily lives. Additionally, as Carol explained, patient care often is laden with interruptions and distractions, which makes it even more critical for healthcare providers to train their attention. According to Shanna Shapiro, where we focus our attention becomes our lives. Wherever you pay attention, you will have most of your brain activity associated with that. Regrettably, our minds often get hijacked into imagining or planning the future or ruminating about the past that we don't clearly see the present. And in this time of big data, we have even more information at our fingertips, and multitasking is the norm. Unfortunately, multitasking is a myth that does not save time. It actually takes more time to switch your focus between tasks, and multitasking makes us more error-prone. For example, if I ask you to count to 14 by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, or say the days of the week in order, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you can easily and quickly complete those two tasks. But if I ask you to intersperse the digits with the days of the week, Sunday, 2, Monday, 4, Tuesday, 6, it takes a lot more time and concentration. Really, we wouldn't want a neurosurgeon answering texts while entering our brains, but we seem to think we can text or look at a text while driving at 40 miles an hour. The American Psychological Association reported that frequent task switching consumes about 40% of a person's productive time. It's much better to focus on one task at a time. Moreover, attention training can positively impact more than just productivity. Paying attention has also been associated with increased happiness. In a study by Killingsworth and Gilbert, the researchers randomly contacted the participants to ask what they were doing and if their mind was wandering when they were doing it, and if they were happy while they were doing the task. The study found that people were happiest when their minds were not wandering, regardless of the task or the pleasantness of their wandering thoughts. Likewise, other studies have indicated that selective attention has the potential to enhance noticing relevant signals and managing distractions, which can augment learning, decrease errors, and improve personal relationships and work performance. Luckily, the literature also suggests that training attention can be increased with gaming, sleep, and especially mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation has been associated with changes at the neural and behavioral levels, resulting in enhanced attention. According to Anishi Jha, different mindfulness intervention leads to the development of 3 types of attention. The orientating system, which is responsible for targeting, concentration, which can be enhanced by anchoring practices such as a focus on breathing or body scan exercises. The alerting system, which is responsible for broad awareness, can be augmented by open monitoring practices that build meta-awareness, or paying attention to your attention, and the executive function, which is responsible for deciding when and where to focus your attention, which can be improved by mindfulness practices that emphasize connection, such as love and kindness and compassion exercises. That is, there are times when we need to focus, there are times when we need to notice what's around us, and times we need to plan and manage our behaviors. Various mindfulness practices can enhance the neural pathways targeted at improving these types of attention and awareness. The literature similarly supports mindfulness for situation awareness and situation monitoring as well. There is a positive correlation between the components of situational awareness and mindfulness in combat and healthcare. However, most of these studies were done in simulations, as it's challenging to plan and assess situational awareness in emergencies and difficult situations. Situational awareness is said to have three components: data collection, or the ability to direct your attention to the relevant elements of the current situation; comprehension of the events in the current situation through synthesis, interpretation, and prioritization of data; projection, the anticipation of possible futures and considering alternative actions. When studied, mindfulness has been positively associated with the enhanced overall situational awareness and data collection and projection in particular. So, given the benefits of mindfulness and intention training, I'd like us to engage in a brief mindfulness activity, a three-centered check-in to connect with, notice, and name our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations. So I invite you to get into a position that is both alert and relaxed at the same time, and either close your eyes or lower your gaze. Notice your feet on the floor, your seat in the seat. Now let's take 2 deep cleansing breaths. In through our nose and out through our mouths. On this next breath, imagine breathing in clean, clear oxygen and breathing out stress like a soft gray mist. Now, take your attention to your thinking center, your brain, and listen in and notice your thoughts without judging or needing to change your experience in any way. Tune in to seeing what you're aware of in your mind. Are there thoughts or images? Is there a running dialogue or commentary? Your to-do list? Planning, worrying, wondering? Just be open to receiving whatever's there, just as it is. Now let's drop our awareness a little lower into our heart center, in the center of our chest. Tune into your feelings. What are you feeling? What is your mood or emotional tone? Your attitude. Maybe there's a frustration or contentment, anxiety or peace. Again, no need to judge. Just be open and receiving and allowing to the experience. And if your mind wanders, that's okay. Just bring it right back and experience your feelings. Finally, allow your attention to drop lower into your stomach and your whole body. Notice as you tune in now to your physical body, what are you aware of? Are there places in the body that feel tight or contracted? Maybe your body feels warm or cold. What's the energy like? Heavy, dense, spacious, light? Again, be open and receiving. No reason to judge, change. When it feels right, open or refocus your eyes. Take one more of those deep cleansing breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Might want to stretch, whatever feels right. Remember, your mind will wander. It's important to bring it back with kindness because that's what brains tend to do. 47% of the time. The trick is to become aware of when your mind wanders and bring your attention back and continue training your attention so that you know where it is at all times. So you might want to take a minute to write in your chat how that felt. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for the gift of your attention and to turn the presentation over to my esteemed colleague, Joanne Seneff, to expand on mindfulness-based interventions. Thank you.
I'm just going to give everyone a few minutes to or a few seconds to respond to Denise's request. And thank you, Denise. So again, thank you for that formal practice, Denise. It was well needed. At this moment, I'd like to take the opportunity to poll the audience to understand what is your current routine regarding mindfulness practice. So if we could please bring the poll up. Thank you. So how many times a week do you practice mindfulness? Not at all. 1 to 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week, or more than 5 times a week. All right. So we have individuals who do participate, but half the group does not. So let's see if the information that we share will entice some of you to practice a bit more. Thank you for responding to the poll. So in my section, what I'm going to focus on is really looking at the definitions of mindfulness. Then we'll follow up with those benefits and consequences again, add a little information to what Denise has already shared. And then I will share some informal practices that can be included daily, anywhere, and anytime. So, what is mindfulness? Jon Kabat-Zinn, the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, defines mindfulness as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose without judgment and being attentive to the present moment. Mindfulness involves attention, awareness, openness, and metacognition, which is thinking about your thinking, resulting in enhanced well-being, different ways of thinking, and potentially better patient care. Mindfulness can also be defined simply as thinking clearly. Engaging in mindfulness interventions requires an intention for practice, motivation to practice, and an environment that fosters being aware and open. In addition to the neurological and physiological changes Denise has described, I'm going to take the opportunity to reinforce and add information. Mindfulness changes both the structure and function of the brain through neuroplasticity, creating cortical thickening and new neural pathways. Studies have shown that mindfulness supports growth in the hippocampus to enhance learning and memory and increase communication between the prefrontal cortex, which is the cognitive center of the brain, and the amygdala, the emotional center. This creates a space that allows you to intentionally respond with increased cognitive awareness. Perceived stress is correlated with increased gray matter in the amygdala, while mindfulness practice is correlated with decreased gray matter. This can decrease the tendency for fight, flight, or freeze reactions. So mindfulness supports activity in the left frontal cortex, enhancing focus, creativity, and a sense of well-being. It also supports activity in the insula, which is associated with empathy, joy, and compassion. Overall, these changes result in physiological changes: decreased heart rate and blood pressure, which enhances well-being. Dr. McNulty, in her publication, outlines the consequences of mindfulness reflected in this table. The benefits of mindfulness for the individual's well-being through neurological changes significantly enhance patient care. When healthcare professionals practice mindfulness-based interventions, they tend to experience less stress and burnout, therefore become more engaged, empathetic, while gaining self-efficacy, increased memory, and less cognitive rigidity, which enables the individual to notice subtle changes in the patient's condition. Mindful clinicians also found more joy in their work, which leads to better outcomes, enhanced satisfaction, and improved patient care. As a result of the benefits of mindfulness, it's essential that healthcare professionals incorporate mindfulness practice in their daily routine. So let's go ahead and look at that. There are several ways that mindfulness can be threaded into your daily life in activities that we already do: washing your hands, doing the dishes, and doing the laundry. Mindfulness can be practiced both at work and at home. And the various strategies will make you feel less stressed, more focused, and be more present in the moment. So let's look at some of these informal practices. Let's start with a tool that can be used anytime to enhance mindfulness when emotions, thoughts, or feelings are getting the better of you. And the tool is stop. Stop what you're doing and step out of autopilot. Take a breath mindfully. And 2 to 3 deep breaths go a long way. So you want to take that deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you want to go ahead and repeat that 2 to 3 times. And then observe. Be open to what's happening with you in that moment, your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations. And once you've completed that observation, go ahead and proceed with greater sense of intention, awareness, and kindness. And now that you've stepped out of autopilot, you're free to choose how to respond from a wider perspective. Another strategy that can be used is center before you enter. And this is a useful tool that you can use when you're rushing from a patient's room to another, when you're rushing from next meeting, and then proceed with more attention and intention in caring for this next patient or to be actively participating in that next meeting. Murphy and Angelo, in their publication titled Being Present for You and Your Patients, Simple Strategies for Everyday Mindfulness, provide great descriptions for other strategies that can be incorporated into our daily routine. The following that I want to share is a great example. We all know as healthcare professionals, think about how many times that you go ahead and you wash your hands. Are you usually rushing? Has it just become part of the process? Thinking about the next thing you do, really not paying attention during that activity. So instead of washing our hands on autopilot, try to bring mindful awareness to this activity. As with anything else, as Denise has indicated, the more you practice, the easier it becomes. While the following instructions use hand washing as an example, go ahead, you can do it with any other activity that you do in your daily, through the run of your day. So let's go ahead and be mindful during our hand washing. So I want you to think that you're going to the sink, you're getting ready to wash your hands. And as you approach the sink, truly ground your feet to the floor. For those who are sitting or those who are standing at the moment, you can do this activity while I share the descriptor. Feel where your feet make connection with the ground under them. And you can also imagine that or picture roots growing from your feet into the ground. Then take an intentional deep breath. Follow the air as it flows in through your nose, filling your lungs. Then as the air leaves your lungs, exiting through your mouth. Once again, follow the air as it flows in through your nose, filling your lungs. Then as the air leaves your lungs, exiting through your mouth. As you wash your hands, use your senses to observe. How does it feel? Do you notice any smells? What do you see? And don't try to change anything. Just simply really observe and be curious to what you're experiencing. When you're done, take that final intentional deep breath, following the air as it flows in through your nose. Bring your attention back to the present moment. These activities, as Carol shared that nurse who was interrupted in the med room, these would be great activities to bring her focus back to the present moment in her next task or next situation. So if you're curious about engaging in mindfulness, remember it will take an intention or reason to practice. The motivation to engage in mindfulness-based interventions, and the willingness to create an environment that is conducive to paying focused attention in a non-judgmental way. Hopefully, we've been able to show the importance and impact that mindfulness-based interventions can have on all of us, personally and professionally. And Carol's going to take over to share some final thoughts.
Thank you, Joanne. So our key takeaways for today is developing a shared mental model requires skills and practice that enhance situational awareness and attention to evolving situations. And this can improve communication and patient outcomes. Although Linked attention and awareness are two distinctly different concepts. Our attention reflects our intention and what we focus on, while awareness, if what we receive from, is what we receive from our senses. And mindfulness practices enhance cognitive skills for prolonged attention, mental flexibility, and thought inhibition for an improved shared mental model. Developing situation monitoring does not automatically happen, as we demonstrated with our activities. It takes practice. If team members are able to utilize situation monitoring and mindfulness to enhance their attention, it will enable the clinical team to be more aware of their situation and improve patient outcomes. Our hope is that each team can thread these concepts into your work environment on a daily basis to ensure that everyone feels safe to share their concerns or situational awareness. We thank you for your attention and your time for joining us today for this webinar.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate that. I think it was a great way to wrap up the year on a very calming and centered approach, as I'm sure many are busy trying to wrap things up, whether it's personally, professionally, what have you, before the end of the year. I know I felt the same way. So that was lovely. We're going to take some questions, so feel free to chat them in. And I'll kick things off with a couple of questions. One is, how or do you incorporate mindfulness, or how do you incorporate it into perhaps some of the other presentations you do, or to specifically into the team steps courses that you might teach?
I can speak to other courses that we teach. We bring it into our preceptor workshops and our charge nurse workshops to we send people on a break and we offer them a mindfulness in motion, a stretching type mindfulness practice during those breaks, alternated with a focus on breathing, just to kind of bring everybody back. And we use it also in professional development in general. As we develop our mindfulness, it helps us be more aware of how we're connecting with the audience and enables us to adjust to what we're teaching and how we're teaching, what strategies we use.
We also incorporate it in our nurse residency program. So mindfulness is one of our stress management tools that we use. However, in Team Steps, it's not currently incorporated in the Team Steps training. The situation monitoring.
Right, I could see how it fits or complements nicely with the situation monitoring module. So yeah, good shout out there. Another question is, from your experience, as whether you're a formal or informal leader, whether you're in a patient care environment or not, what are ways that formal or informal leaders can help promote mindfulness with their teams specifically? I think you provided some good individual strategies, but any thoughts on how leaders can encourage their team members to practice mindfulness?
What we've seen in our organization is that actually some team leaders will start that at their staff meetings, and to incorporate, or in huddles in the morning, just a brief exercise, or if they're doing a retreat. Also, it's been used in some of our units, especially when there's been a significant emergent situation, and to help individuals focus and recenter before they move on from what currently happened, to go ahead and have a brief moment of a mindfulness activity. What we're also seeing is that the organization does have regularly scheduled times where our healthcare professionals can informally join and participate through that. And what we're seeing is a lot of our units have incorporated potentially, I'm going to use a Zen room, where there is a moment to step away and take a break, but then have these different activities easily accessible, from an electronic platform to an actual activity that they can listen to, and just have that reprieve to be able to be mindful, recenter, and refocus.
Yeah, great tips there. And as you were talking, I was thinking back to actually, for those that are familiar with Northwell Health, their system in New York, they practice mindful moments before operating. So in the entire operating room, they take a moment to practice mindfulness. And there's a really cool video. It's like maybe a minute or two. I just chatted in if people want to check out them kind of talking about it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities as leaders. I think someone chatted in, with the daily huddle. So if someone's leading either a daily huddle or a brief, like practicing that mindful moment as a whole collective group is a great idea. There was a more technical question from Mary asking, can you talk through the table with the neuroplasticity and patient outcomes? So maybe I can even go back to that. If you could maybe just like speak more, if it will let me.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to let Denise, Dr. McNulty, take the lead because it is her publication, and she, yeah, and so I think it's great if Denise can.
And I did a concept analysis for mindfulness, and through all that research developed a model for mindfulness in nursing professional development. And when you're looking at what the literature says mindfulness can do, it really does go into those three categories of well-being, neuroplasticity, or changing the way you think, and patient care. So through taking care of yourself and using mindfulness to have a more positive aspect and to better deal, you lead to more therapeutic relationships with your patients, with your coworkers, with the team, which feeds right into situational awareness and enhanced communication and team steps. The neuroplasticity comes from those impacts. It just changes the structure of your brain through that cortical thickening and new neural pathways that form that allow you to be more aware of your emotions so that you can accept them, use them as information, and enhance actually your emotional intelligence through becoming better aware of yourself and more attentional to the people around you. And therefore you have better empathy, compassion, and therefore have a better relationship, notice more, and improve patient care.
Thanks, Denise. Appreciate that additional response. So I think we'll end. We have one more question. Oopsies. Clearly, this has a mind of its own today. I'll just leave up the final reminders for those that want the CE information. But someone asked, there's been pushback lately on focusing on individual resiliency, including mindfulness, without dealing at more of the system level or the leadership level. So do you have thoughts or any comments to make on whether, system leadership are using these techniques or ways to incorporate it within senior leadership to hopefully reduce burnout from not just bottom up, but top down?
I'd like to say one thing from that aspect and then pass it on to Joanne and Carol, but it has to be a multifaceted approach to resiliency and the mental and behavioral health and improving that for our clinicians. It can't be, oh, it's your fault, practice mindfulness. No, mindfulness is a tool for you, as is self-compassion, as a lot of other things you can do for yourself, but there must be a multifaceted approach that looks at the administrative tasks, the non-healthcare tasks that we're all burdened with, that addresses those, that addresses the shortage of healthcare professionals, and that addresses the stigma attached to asking for help. So it has to be multifaceted.
And here at our organization, we incorporated it in our high reliability team as one of the tools to utilize. And also it is offered to every individual at our organization at various levels. So we talk about it a lot here.
Right. Yeah. I think, what you're saying is mindfulness or practicing mindfulness is not a magic bullet to help with resiliency, either on an individual or organizational level, but rather we need to take, different approaches and use different tools to help reduce this stress and burnout as much as possible. This is not like a magic bullet to solve everything at once, but something practical that we can do or on our own or encourage our team members to do so as well.
Dr. Amisha Jha actually calls it pre-resilience, that it sets up a path to resilience and put you in the moment.
Well, with that, I want to end on that note. I really would like to thank our group of wonderful speakers here today. Thank you for your time and for concluding our 2022 webinar series on a positive note. Just a few logistical reminders that once we conclude today's webinar, all participants will, a browser will appear with an evaluation. So we really value everyone's feedback. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to complete that, in addition to our CE credit. So please text SOLPES to the number you see there or refer to your email from this morning with more instructions. So as always, we want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for a great 2022 webinar series year, and we look forward to seeing everyone in 2023. So happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays.